UFC Macau predictions. This is Masked MMA. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Let's get into it. All right. Now, this is last minute, so I'm going to rush through it because I didn't know that it was happening in 4 hours. To be honest, the time just flew by this week for me. So we have Meshate Hassier. These names I'm gonna butcher, okay? Nicholas Mota. Now, Nicholas Mota, if it weren't for the fact that Nicholas Mota gets KO'd a lot, I would have said decision, but Meshate Hassier, even though he got a split decision against Gabriel Benitez, who he should have KO'd, he does have decent power, and he's going up against a guy in Nicholas Mota who doesn't have the reach or height advantage, and he doesn't have a great chin, so it's going to be around 2 TKO. TKO. Yeah. Long Xiao versus Quang Li. And this one I am going with Quang Li via decision because he actually looked quite good in the what was it? Chris Gutierrez fight. And I'm basically solely predicting like Long Zhao had a very close fight in his last fight. I believe it was in Abu Dhabi, and it was against another prospect from around the same region, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong, but he basically, he could have won that, but the issue is it's the level of opposition. He just didn't, whether he won or lost that fight, the the level that Chris Gutierrez is much higher than two guys who will potentially be something. But Long Zhao lost that fight anyway. So even if he won that, it's a guy who it's a guy that's a prospect. It's not a level tester as much as losing to Chris Gutierrez. He actually did okay against Chris Gutierrez. So yeah, different levels. And then we have Loner Kavanaugh and Jose Ocha. And this one, I mean, yeah, this one is pretty justified in my opinion in being a huge, pretty moderate favorite. Um, Loner Kavanaugh, yeah, I think despite all the KOs and stuff, he does have a few decisions, right? He does have a pretty patient style, even though he does have a pretty aggressive one as well if he needs to be. He does have the power. I think that he is too technical, and he does actually have the ever so slight age advantage, in my opinion. I think that a 23-year-old um, is gonna have less strength than a 25-year-old. So this one's gonna be another decision for me, but I could see it going to a finish. And next we have Carlos Hernandez versus Nayam Garal Tumenderbarel. I think I got that right. I might be wrong there. I'm going with Carlos Hernandez here because I get it. I've seen the Weasel's video. He got dropped by um, Tatsuro Taira, and he's not really known for the power, but that was just a one-off in my opinion. You see in his next fight, his fights after that, he looked quite good, and even in the fights where he's losing, he's still okay, aside from the Tatsuro Taira one. So, wait, Carlos Hernandez is the favorite? That's something. That is, I actually don't remember that. I'm still going with Carlos Hernandez, but that is not not what I expected. And we have Mingxi versus Xiao Feng. Um, she is better. That is my prediction. I don't know. I haven't seen them fight. I've just, from what I'm hearing, she's better. That's all I can say on that one. Kiru Siota and Dong Hoon Choi. Yeah, I'm actually gonna go with Dong Hoon Choi. I think that his I understand, right, opposition and the right, like Cage Warriors, it's he did lose Sohota, but Cage Warriors is better than most of these promotions in the East Asia. I understand that, but Um, he does get KO'd in that matchup, Sahota, and his opposition is not much better. Lots of these guys I haven't seen the technique, so I'm basically going off of the records for the most part. And as far as the reach and height goes, that is a bit worrying, 100%. But Do Hoon Choi, he does have a perfect record, and he does have some good potential, especially with how young he is. So I'm going to go with him by I'm going to say around 1 KO. I'm going to say he just lands the perfect shot. And we move on to Soo Hyung Yu versus Banglin Janisili. These names. And yeah, I mean, even the Tapology fan base is seeing it as a pretty close one, you could see. I'm gonna go with the underdog here. I think that ultimately it comes down to, you know, they're pretty similar in opposition overall, I would say. Cleaner opposition from Su Young Yu, I would say, but obviously the records can be padded in certain regions, so that's not the most reliable thing. Um, Although I did mention that the records is what I'm going off of, I would say that they are quite comparable, to be honest, especially as of recent in Gianni Suli's career. He's going up against 12 and 3, 9 and 4, and that's okay. And then when he's losing, it's a split decision to a 12 and 1 who, this is another chance coming off of a road to UFC. He's done it before twice. So, I feel like he's going to take that experience and take advantage of it, as well as the range and the height. I think that he's going to win a decision. And then we have some interesting ones. Now, Minyoung Jang, let's just be honest, this is where we're getting into territory of fights that I've actually known about, fights and fighters that I've actually seen tape on. And Minyoung Jang, I mean, let's just be honest, Ozzy Diaz, he got KO'd by Joe Pyfer. Yeah, he's coming off of some wins. But I mean, these are against subpar opposition, and he was a middleweight. He is undersized. He is much older, and in this fight, I don't value the youth. So I mean, the reach is practically the same. Minyin Zhang, he has been KO'd a lot, yes, but that was way in the past. So yeah, I mean, pretty clear in my opinion. And then we have Carlos Ulberg versus Volkan Oezdemir, and Uh, yeah, this one is a very interesting one. I could definitely see Volkan winning this, but I do think that Carlos Ulberg is going to get the job done in the second round, and this is due to the fact that Volkan Oezdemir. This is why I actually picked Johnny Walker against Volkan Oezdemir. We see in the Yuri Prohaska fight that these longer, rangier guys can pose problems, especially if they're more unorthodox. Now, Carlos Ulberg is more orthodox in his fight style. However, um, I still don't think that that matters because it's the long and rangy guys, the guys who play it long and rangy who will get to Volkan Ozdemir. You see earlier in the Johnny Walker fight that even though I do think he should have been more unorthodox, Johnny Walker was landing the leg kicks at will, and Volkan Ozdemir doesn't really know how to check them too well. So with that being said, Carlos Solberg is kind of a kickboxing type, and he can use that to great effect here. And I think that he's going to wear at the legs of Volkan Oezdemir in the first round, and the first round is going to be quite hectic for him. I can't see him getting rocked. However, I think he'll survive. Volkan Oezdemir's movement will be severely hindered, sort of like Conor McGregor versus Dustin Poirier, except, Carlos Solberg has more of a kickboxing style than a boxing style. Um, we've seen that both of them can resort to the grappling against who was it? Someone from South Korea. I forget the name. Daun Jung. My apologies there. I forget the name, but Daun Jung. He Carlos Solberg ended it with a submission on top in the third round, and Volkan Oezdemir he also got a sub against Bogdan Gushkov in the first round. So we know that these guys can take it to the ground, but if Carlos Ulberg chops at the legs early, I would expect him to be able to take it to the ground if it gets hairy. if it gets dangerous. So, yeah, I would say that Carlos Ulberg overall has the more options, and he'll be able to find the sniping shots that he needs to in the second round, limiting the movement of Volkan Oezdemir and eventually putting his lights out. So, yeah, that one's an interesting one, but Volkan Oezdemir, he's a little too basic. Kong Wang versus Gabriel Fernandez. Um, this one, yeah, I mean, most of the people are picking a KO, and I understand that completely. However, if you look at Kong Wang's career, I understand that Gabriel Fernandez is kind of a, you know, like she's not got a lot of potential. Let's just be honest. But she's a pretty average flyweight, Gabriel Gabriela Fernandez. But I actually don't think that she'll get KO'd because you see throughout her career that she hasn't been knocked out. It's all been decisions for her lately, and especially for even her losses, which, if we're looking at reasons to pick Conway by KO, this is ultimately like we know that Conway's gonna win. Conway is gonna win. She has that aura, but it's just a matter of how will she get it done? And people are picking KO. Lots of people. I don't think it'll happen in that fashion. If you look back at Kong Wang's career, which I have actually just before this, certain fighters I've looked at recently, and I see that Kong Wang um, she has mostly decisions. So I'm gonna go with the decision, honestly. I think that she'll show off some impressive technique and probably drop Gabriela Fernandez once or twice. But yeah, I think that Gabriela will survive. She'll probably have some good jujitsu as well to make it through. And yeah, I think a decision. Kenan Song versus Muslim Salikov. Most people are picking Muslim Salikov, and I agree. I think that he's a little bit too much of a favorite. I do think it's almost 50-50. I agree with the Tapology fans, because him being 40 is an issue. He's definitely lost some of that speed. You see that in Muslim Salikov's older fights. He's been way more dynamic, but as of recent, he's been more, stationary. He's still skilled, but, that age is definitely limiting him. But ultimately, I'm going to pick him by decision because I feel like he still has the versatile skill set. Kenan Song basically just has the boxing for the most part, and you saw that against Ricky Glenn, although it was a clear win for Kenan Song. Ricky Glenn made it competitive, and you shouldn't be doing that when Drew Dober is putting him out by a first round KO. So, yeah, I mean, I think it'll be competitive, but I can even see a 30-27 from Muslim Salikov. It ultimately depends on the age. And lots of decisions on the main card. Yeah, I think that Yao Zhao I hope I'm saying that right, is getting a decision as well. These two girls are mostly decision merchants. Yeah, Yao Zhao got the KO by Jessica Andrade's by the Jessica Andrade fight. She got a KO by then, but ultimately that's ultimately a that's not a sign for how her power is going to look in the future, right? We see in majority of her career that she wasn't able to get that kind of power off, and really look for the knockout punch too much. We see throughout her career. She's mostly a decision merchant, and Tabitha Ricci, we don't really expect her to be able to get things to the ground too easily. She probably can. She'll probably hug. She'll probably try as much as she can, but ultimately, I think that Yao Xiaoyan is going to be able to keep her off. Um, and point fight as much as possible. Yao Zhangnan did look impressive against Zhang Weili. We know that, so yeah, I think it's going to be a decision for Yan. And then Piotr Yan versus Davison Figueiredo. Now, I know I've been safe this card, and that's widely due to the fact that not only do I actually genuinely believe in most of the fighters on this card that I'm picking, and I do like the odds of a lot of these favorites. However, it's also because, I made some silly predictions in the last one. However, This one is very interesting, and the odds are, I think they should be in Piotr Jan's favor, but it should not be a moderate favorite. I definitely disagree with that. I think it should be more like a minus 180, 185, something like that. But ultimately, we know that Piotr Jan has had an issue with the takedowns. We know that in the Song Yadong fight, he got PTSD from the Marab fight. Against Song Yadong, he was uh, constantly trying to block takedowns that weren't even coming, and that's because Song Yadong feinted them so well, and he was able to capitalize on that because Pyotr Yan kept thinking there was a takedown, and so he would land strikes up top. It was a very good jab fight as well, but ultimately, in the third round, Song Yadong made a mistake and he got held down and lost the third. So it was a very close and competitive fight. However, Piotr Jan, we also have to consider that he had an arm injury in that one. So even though there is a blueprint now, Merab Devalishvili and Song Yadong are kind of laying that out there. You know, Piotr Jan still was able to beat the blueprint in the Song Yadong fight. And Davison Figueiredo, he can implement a similar sort of approach. Try and either fake hard strikes or land hard strikes, which will eventually open up takedowns because Piotr Jan does keep a very high guard, and he does that to his detriment at times, especially against takedown artists. So it's a very interesting fight. But Piotr Jan, people forget he is 31 still. He isn't that old. I know it feels that way because he's been fairly active. He's had a pretty interesting career that lots of fans have kept their eyes on. Lots of interesting moments that the fans paid attention to throughout his career. And Davison Figueiredo, he he's been winning. He's not had injuries as far as I'm aware. So it's very interesting. Lots of factors that go into this. This is a very, very high level fight. Pretty much any level, any fight that these two go into is very high level and interesting. And I'm so close to picking Davison Figueiredo. I do think that he has the style. I think that he what he needs to do to win is what I just said. He needs to try and just land the big shots through the guard. Get Piotr Jan to get worried to be worried about these strikes. Um, then Davison Figueiredo hold onto the back like he does Cody Garbrandt, and uh, secure 3 of the 5 rounds off of just being a backpack like Aljamain Sterling. And if that's not going to work out anymore, then you need to try and just swing the hands as much as you can and hope that one of them lands because Piotr Jan is just the better kickboxer and boxer. So if he just gasses out Davison Figueiredo, he's just gonna need to hope that he can land one of those big hands, big right hands, big rights or big lefts. He's gonna need to um, pray for those big shots to land because that is ultimately how he wins. He just secures rounds off the back, off the takedowns, early big strikes, and then if he gasses in the later rounds or if he's no longer able to get those takedowns, try and land some more bigger strikes and win rounds off of that, at least 3 of the 5. But I don't think that he'll be able to do that. I simply don't. I think Pyotr Yan is too good. Um, I could see a decision here, but I honestly see this going similar to the Jose Aldo fight. I see Davison Figueiredo being insanely explosive early on, but Piotr Jan always does better as the fight goes on, except for Merab Dvalishvili. In that fight, it was different, but against every other opposition, Piotr Jan has always done better as the fight went on. You see, he TKOs Jose Aldo. He um, ends the fight against Corey Sandhagen with the freaking um, combo into a spinning head kick. You know, there's other examples. Um, he head kick KOs. Uh, I know this is Uriah Faber, but he head kick KOs Uriah Faber in the third round. Like he does better as the fight goes on, and I think that we're gonna see a round 5 KO. KO. And the round 5 KO, it's a thing that Jan has done in his career, and I know that he's got mostly decisions lately, but you know, he's had these just moments where I'm like, he's definitely top five, top 10 strikers right now. And if he could just fix up his takedown, you know, um, worries, if he could just shut down the takedowns and put on a masterclass, I think that Davison, with kicks to the body, because Piotr Jan does like his kicks, if he just lands to the body with the kicks, and he puts in a lot of investment shots in the early parts of the rounds, and Davison Figueiredo is no longer able to get the back because this isn't Cody Garbrandt, and like he was even struggling a little bit in that one. I know that Cody Garbrandt has got fast hands, but otherwise he's got not much else, and he almost got rocked in that one until he got the takedown. So this isn't no chin Garbrandt, and Cody no grappling Garbrandt. So yeah, I'm going with a round 5 KO, maybe TKO, similar to the Jose Aldo fight. And yeah, whoever wins this, in my opinion, deserves the title shot because it's a win streak of multiple ranked opposition, and Umar does not have that. He, in my opinion, I understand Corey Sandhagen, number two at the time, but that's the only one that he had. But just before that, Umar fought a guy who was making his debut, so I don't think that Umar deserves it, but hey, if they give it to him, sure. Ultimately, I think that whoever wins this gets the title shot, or deserves it at least, and I cannot wait for this main event. It's a highly skilled one, and I'm super excited for it. And with that being said, make sure you like, comment, subscribe. My topology is Mask of MMA, and my YouTube channel is Masked MMA. Like, comment, subscribe.